Hello and welcome to this week's Eagles Leadership Success Workshop from the Learning Commons. Our topic this week is all about professionalism and initiative in your education. This semester, I have covered a number of different leadership topics, from presentation skills and leading meetings, all the way to digital literacy and creative problem solving. I figured that since we are closing in on the end of the semester, that it would be appropriate to go back to basics. And so today I hope to share with everyone the basics of professionalism and how you can take initiative in your own education. Now, these are skills that I hope that you will take to heart and you will apply throughout not only your education, but you can take these with you throughout your career or life outside of school as well. Let's go ahead and get started. There are 4 areas that we are going to focus our attention on today, and these 4 points are going to drive our presentation. The first is answering the question of what is professionalism and why is it important? Next, how can professionalism and these be applied to my education? After we cover professionalism, we are going to switch gears a little bit to initiative. We'll answer the question, what is initiative? And then we're going to talk about how you could take initiative in your own education. Before we begin, let's start with an introduction. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Sam. I am an academic success coach in the Learning Commons at TCC, and my job is to help students in any way that I can in order for them to be successful in their classes. While I can help support you in pretty much any academic area, I do specialize in the areas of study and test-taking strategies, in time management and organization, note-taking, and academic motivation and goals. I'm also currently a student over at Florida State University. I am currently finishing up my last semester as a master's student in a little program called Instructional Systems and Learning Technologies. And the focus of my degree there is all about how people, in particular students, learn and perform at their best. This semester, I have hosted a number of success skills and leadership success workshops, and this is leadership workshop number 6. Yes, number 6, and it is the final leadership workshop of the semester. I have included my email address on this slide just in case you don't have it and would like to get in contact with me later. Let's start off this workshop today by talking about professionalism. We are going to define professionalism as all about the ways that you interact, behave, and conduct yourself with others. And it's more than just a certain action that you do or a set of actions that you perform. It's a way of being. Now, we are going to discuss 4 skills of professionalism, but I first want to mention that professionalism itself is contextual. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that professional behavior is dependent upon the circumstances of the setting that you are currently in. What is viewed as professionalism or acceptable in school might not be viewed as professional or appropriate or accepted in another setting. Each context or setting is going to have their own set of norms and behaviors that are found to be acceptable. The best way to learn about professionalism in the setting that you're in is by observing and learning from others. And with the focus of today's presentation being about professionalism in the college setting, I thought that we could talk about the basics that you can likely apply in other settings as well. Now that we have defined professionalism, let's take a look at the benefits of professionalism and how it could be applied within the college setting. The first benefit that I want to bring up today is that professionalism and acting in a professional way can allow you to become the best version of yourself. Acting in a professional way shows that you are valuing self-improvement and that you are taking your education seriously, even when the circumstances are less than ideal, which I know circumstances are less than ideal right now, but that makes professional behavior and professionalism even more important. Valuing professionalism communicates to others that you are open to learning new knowledge and new skills, and that they can trust you to be attentive regardless of what the others around you are doing. The next benefit that I do want to propose to you is that acting professionally could potentially open up new opportunities for you. Here's the deal. If you are professional, if you're courteous, if you're respectful, if you are exceeding the expectations set forth for you, people do take notice. They notice these things. And when the right people notice these things or hear about your professional demeanor, this could lead to invitations to participate in all sorts of professional opportunities. It could be an offer to apply for different scholarships or different programs. It could be a placement into a prestigious internship, networking with professionals that work in the field that you are interested in. It could open up opportunities in research and way more than that. The bottom line is that if you have a reputation for having all of the skills that are associated with being professional or having professionalism, it could open different doors and opportunities for you. And so I think it's very important for all students to consider and learn. The 4 skills of professionalism that I believe are worth noting for this presentation are communication, attitude, approach, and openness to grow. I'm going to go through each of these one by one and then explain how it relates back to professionalism, specifically within the school setting. Our first skill is communication. Have you ever heard someone say, "It's not what you say, it's how you say it"? Well, to be honest, this is true. It's really all about perception. Communication is all about perception. The words that you say, your actual verbal communication, only makes up about 7% of the message that your audience perceives from you, regardless of what your intention was. Tone, on the other hand, makes up about just over 1/3 of the message that your audience hears. And that's the way that you say something, the way in which you say something. Your tone can convey or express these either overt or covert emotions. And then making up over 1/2 of the message that people understand from your communication is through body language, what we know as body language or nonverbal communication. As you can imagine, that makes communicating very difficult when you are in a virtual environment or in a virtual classroom, in a virtual meeting. And therefore, you do have to be abundantly clear in your messaging. Make sure that you are, one, focused on your verbal speech, but also paying really close attention to your tone and all of those nonverbal communication cues as much as possible. You've likely noticed that, even though I'm using Zoom, I still move around in much the same way that I would a normal setting. I use my hands a lot to talk. It's almost a personality trait to use my hands. I always say, I'm Italian, I talk with my hands, and I'm not afraid to move around. You should consider these things as well as you are communicating with others in a virtual setting, as well as an in-person setting. So let's take this idea of communication and then apply it to the context of your education. So students often fall into the trap of under-communicating. I've noticed this, you might feel the same way, but they often under-communicate with their professors, especially when concerns arise or a problem comes up. A student might go back and forth, wondering whether or not they should speak with their professor about something. And in my opinion, you should always just go for it, but it can be hard to convince a student to actually follow through with this. Communicating early, especially when there's a problem, is not only viewed as professional, but can also allow you and your professor to work together sooner so that you can start problem solving earlier. So maybe you're not sitting on a problem or something that you're stressed about. You can just sort of communicate about it, and then hopefully some of that stress will lift and you'll be able to work together to find a solution. Next, I do want to look at attitude. For the purpose of this presentation, we are defining attitude as a way of thinking or feeling about something or someone, and then this may be reflected in one's behavior. There are two types of attitudes. There are our internal attitudes. These are the attitudes of which we view the world. They are our beliefs, sort of those inside attitudes. Then there are our external attitudes, and this is the way in which we physically or externally, outwardly display our internal attitudes. The best way that I can put this is that it's okay to feel some kind of way about something. I understand that sometimes people can get on our nerves, people can behave in ways that bug us, or we just don't click with someone. The professional thing to do, though, especially when you are in either an educational or some sort of career setting, is to be able to put aside those internal attitudes and not let them impact your external attitudes or your behavior. A professional attitude then encompasses each and every one of these behaviors listed here. If you follow through with these behaviors, then it would be fair to say that you are viewed as being professional. And so you should manage your time, honor commitments, meet deadlines, display leadership skills and abilities, maintain academic honesty, showing determination even when you are faced with different obstacles or struggles, being able to think creatively and critically, and also being able to manage conflicts that arise. Following attitude is approach. And we are going to define approach as the way in which one chooses to deal with something, often when they are dealing with it for the first time. And my advice is to look at these situations and approach them with the following values on this slide. You should be reliable, meaning that you need to be consistent, and others need to know that you can be trusted, to follow through and to get things done. You should also act responsibly and follow through on any of the commitments that you do make. Now, of course, things do come up, so if you are unable to follow through with a certain commitment, you should use those communication skills that I talked about and communicate as early as possible to let them know that you'll be unable to follow through with whatever commitment you've made and make other arrangements if needed. You should also approach situations respectfully by giving thought and consideration about how the decisions you make are going to impact others around you. In addition, you should be disciplined in your actions. Make sure that you are communicating to others that you are taking your education and your work and what you're doing seriously. And then finally, you should be approaching all situations at school with integrity. This means that you're behaving in a way that is honest, in a way that is ethical, in no way academically dishonest. And this is especially important when you are dealing with situations or problems or conflict. The final skill that we are going to be discussing for professionalism is openness to growth. And this one's a little difficult for people to really open up and accept. And it's really all about how you perceive and take in feedback from others. It can be difficult. And I'd like to say that it's normal to feel a little bit defensive when you get feedback from others, or to shy away from feedback or not ask for feedback from others. However, when we do ignore feedback or run from feedback that others are providing us, we do lose out on this really great opportunity for us to learn a little bit more about ourselves and to learn and to grow in general. So I'd like for you to consider these 3 steps when taking feedback from others. The first is that you should be willing to hear out feedback from others, obviously, but even when we don't believe that the other person is presenting that feedback in a necessarily constructive way. You know, we all like constructive feedback, or some of us like constructive feedback, but sometimes people do offer feedback that is constructive, but maybe they're not really thinking about their tone or their body language or their nonverbal communication. And so it's presented and perceived in a way that is not constructive. That's the first step. The second step is then to ask yourself what it is about this feedback that you can learn from. What can you learn from this particular experience of receiving feedback? Even if you don't agree with the way that they presented the feedback to you, are there any takeaways? Even the smallest little takeaway. And then last, after you have considered whether or not there's anything you can learn from this, if there are any takeaways, you should really just consider it, take a moment before reacting or responding to the person providing the feedback for you. It shows that you have given thought to it, that you've given it consideration, and it also allows you to sort of take a moment so that you're not just sort of jumping in and getting defensive when you do receive that feedback. Okay, so we've covered professionalism, so let's jump over now to initiative. We are defining initiative today as the power or the opportunity to act or take charge of something. It is the link and connection between your thoughts and ideas and the actions that you actually display. Many people, though, have great ideas, but not everyone acts on them. You know, why is that? And I looked into these reasons. I looked into the reasons why this happens, and it turns out that there really are many factors that contribute to the lack of connection between our thoughts and our actions. For some, they find that they're just too busy to follow through. You know, maybe they've got this big idea, but they don't necessarily have the time to commit to it. Others may have a fear of failure or a fear of judgment from others if they do try to follow through with this particular idea that they have. There are some that say that they overthink things, and so it's difficult for them to actually get started. And then others are afraid to just make the wrong decision. Sometimes you're presented with so many different decisions that gives you something called decision fatigue. And so you end up not making a decision because there are way too many options. All of these contribute to the lack of connection between thoughts and actions. But initiative is all about crossing these barriers, stepping up, and actually getting things done. And we're going to talk about a few ways in which you can build your confidence, how you can approach your education, and start taking initiative. The first step to learning to take initiative is really defining a concrete why. Defining your why. Your why is your purpose. You know, in other words, it's your purpose for enrolling at TCC or pursuing a career on whichever path that you've chosen for yourself. It's your motivation. It's your end goal. Your why is what moves you forward when things get tough. But your why is also very much individual to you. You have a different set of experiences, attitudes, worldviews, and feelings towards your purpose. And your why is going to set you apart from everyone else. It's your story. So when defining your why, you should consider the following questions. You should consider when you are at your best. You should consider when you're at your worst. What is it that you are passionate about? When do you feel most energized? What is your purpose? And how much does that purpose matter to you? All of these questions should be considered as you define your why. Fear of failure is one reason why students do not take initiative. And I'm going to ask that in your education, you try to not just commit to the grade that you want, but that you commit to learning. I know that while completing some of your general education requirements, you might find yourself asking, why am I taking this class? This class doesn't relate to what I'm interested in. This class isn't related to the major I want to go into. It doesn't relate to my future career path, so why am I taking it? And so sometimes you'll give half effort. Sometimes you'll do just fine with that. You're really just after the grade. And what I'm going to ask for you to do is to get rid of this attitude and work towards true learning. To be able to walk away from a class, even if you don't find it to be the most interesting, and find value and connection to you and your goals. I think it's no surprise to any of you at this point that college classes have quite a bit of work, that there are high expectations for that work, and that classes can move fairly quickly. And so it does take the time and the dedication to succeed in these kinds of courses, though I have no doubt that each and every one of you has what it takes to succeed. However, it does take that purposeful time and dedication to learning, a choice that I hope you have all made or can make today to get there. In addition to your commitment to learn, it's important that you also take responsibility. Your education is not just a personal responsibility, but it's also a professional responsibility for your performance. Make sure that if you sign up for classes and you actually have to attend class, so it's not 100% online class, that you are actually attending class. And if you're taking both like a lecture and a lab, make sure that you're going to both of them, that you are completing the different activities, that you are paying attention while you're in class. If your professor requires you to, have your camera on and have your face in view, make sure that you're following those guidelines, and also that you're honoring deadlines. If you are having difficulties though, so if any of these things you can't do, it's also your responsibility to reach out to the resources that are available to you, to be able to reach out to a resource or reach out to a support system. You can reach out to your professor with thoughtful and targeted questions during office hours. You could attend tutoring. You could work with a coach. The help is available to you, but it's up to you to determine whether or not you're going to take these opportunities and really take responsibility for your own learning and your own education. Taking initiative will also require you to create SMART goals. So if you've taken a college success class, you've probably learned all about SMART goals. S stands for specific. So when you're creating a goal, you need to state exactly what it is that you actually want to accomplish using action words. M stands for measurable. There needs to be a way for you to measure whether or not you've accomplished that goal. It needs to be attainable or achievable. It means that the goal is something that you know you're going to be able to do. It needs to be relevant. So for example, if you have a goal to pass an exam, that goal should include steps such as, studying or attending a test review or seeking tutoring, and shouldn't include things like going out to eat or cleaning your apartment or hanging out with a friend, because those are not relevant to the actual goal that you have. And then last, your goal needs to be timely. There needs to be some sort of timetable or timeline for completion. You need to state specifically when you intend to complete that goal or get the job done. And I am talking about like an actual date or time frame that you hope to accomplish that goal. Another part of taking responsibility and really just being an adult in general is being able to prioritize wisely. When you prioritize academics, you are making a dedicated choice to bring your work to the forefront and to put other things on the back burner for the time being. This could be based on important work that's coming up that has a deadline. If you're meeting with a study group, then it's about finding a time when all of your members of your group are available. Another way to prioritize is determine how much of an impact something is going to have on your learning. So if you have the option of you know, studying for an exam that makes up 30% of your grade and doing an extra credit assignment that's only going to give you 2 bonus points, then I think the choice is easy. I would hope you would prioritize what is going to have the biggest impact, not just on your learning, but also on your grade in the class. Lastly, when you are taking initiative, it's all about being proactive. When you are proactive, you are constantly on the lookout for opportunities to improve yourself and your work. And this is before any problems or issues or concerns arise. So if you were to wait until your first failing test grade to make a difference or to try to make a change, then that's being something called reactive. It's a reaction. It's not proactive, so before anything comes up. An example of being proactive could be a week before the exam, you're noticing that you're struggling to understand a certain concept, and so you attend your professor's office hours to seek clarification. Make sure that if you do have questions, that you seek out those answers, you seek out the help that you need, that you ask those questions, and to ask those questions before it's too late. Yeah, I work in the Learning Commons, and so I see it all the time. Maybe not necessarily this semester because not many people are actually coming into the Learning Commons, but I will see throughout the year or throughout the semester, you know, early on, not many people show up for tutoring, and then once midterms hit, it's like the floodgates open and there are students everywhere in need of tutoring. But then after midterms, once again, you know, it sort of calms down again and then picks right back up the week of exams or right before exams. You want to reach out for help before it's too late. So if you know you have those questions and it's before the final week of classes, ask it before the final week of classes. Don't wait until the last moment. Ask those questions before it's too late. Ultimately, you have to become an advocate for your own education. You are in control. And so you should understand that there is support out there for you and that there are resources available to you to aid in your success here at TCC, but it's up to you whether you are proactive or reactive in reaching out to these supports. If you feel like you need more one-on-one support in taking initiative in your education, I am open to working with each and every one of you through academic coaching. I hope that if you would like to work on taking initiative in your education, that you will contact me using the contact information, email address, and phone number on this slide. I want to thank you so much for attending today's presentation, and I hope that you all have a wonderful and safe Thanksgiving break. I will, at this point, if you have any questions, just let me know. You can either type it in the chat or use your microphone. And if there are not any questions, you are free to go.